Hello, eRank, and it's a Tuesday.
Hello, everyone. We should play that again because I was dancing along and now I'm not dancing.
I know I'm kind of getting into it now. You sort of dancing. I should sneakily find a way to show what you guys are doing when this is on. In fact, that's what we should get, right? Everybody here should record themselves dancing to our theme tune, and we'll make a video of everyone dancing.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, I did this years ago. A friend of mine was growing peppers, and he made a song about growing peppers, and we all danced along, and he made a thing of it. Yes.
Cool. But
Yes.
hello from Toronto and Pamela. That way.
That way, yes.
Is
And
coming to us from
Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah. Oh, don't do the accent, else I'll try
I will.
Canadian accent.
It's pretty neutral. Today we are going to be talking about the listing audit. So we're just going to wait for a few more people to get in here. We're going to be showing you from the very basics of what the listing audit is and grow from there.
Exactly. We heard you guys that some of you are really wanting a proper beginner thing. So hopefully there'll be something here for everybody, but this will be a lot of the basics of what is that? What does that do? What are we looking for? So if you're looking for super advanced stuff, who knows, we might get there, but that's not what the point of today is. This is to hopefully show all those little things that you maybe felt too stupid to ask. So ask the dumb questions. We're here for them today.
And there's no such thing as a dumb question. Literally just ask anything. If there's something that you don't understand or something that you think you potentially misunderstand or you think that someone else might not understand, ask that question too.
Yeah, because I promise you, if you've thought of it, then somebody else has. I think we are over 2 million eRank users, well, accounts anyway. So that is an awful lot of people. And the fact that you guys are here watching this, you're more clued up than most. So whatever you think of as a dumb question, somebody else will be worried about it.
Exactly, because we have users from little old granny who's never touched a computer before, all the way up to the selling whiz who's been doing this their entire life, and everybody in between. And so eRank is a tool for everybody. So we might have missed putting something in based on your questions, but we're going to go over and hopefully everything is there that you need.
Yep, hopefully. Ed Fred Ned thinks I should try the accent.
From Baston.
Yeah, let's not be doing an accent stream because that's going to go bad really quickly.
It sure will.
Generally, everything it either goes Irish or Jamaican very quickly, no matter what accent you started with.
All right. We got a few people in here. Why don't we dive in?
We do the do. Yep. If I can remember what buttons it is. Here we go. So here is our listing audit tool. So I'm on the right page now. Yeah. So you get here from your eRank dashboard, listing optimization, listing audits. So this is the first page you're going to come into if you're looking to audit your listing. So like most of our pages on eRank, if you're not sure about anything, you have a little learn more button to walk you through it. But hopefully that's what we're going to be doing just now. And just looking at everything on the page. So give us a yell, whatever, if I'm going too fast or if we miss anything. But firstly, the filter, if you know you're looking for a specific type of listing. I make mainly dogs and cats. So if I want to see if any of my listings are cats, then I can just put in cat and just see the cats instead of all of them. And the same thing, you could just look at things in different categories in your shop. So if I just wanted my large sculptures, then you just hit that and it'll get there eventually. There we go. So you can filter or just narrow it down. I know some of you guys have absolutely hundreds of listings. How many listings are you up to just now, Bryan?
We're down. We started removing some. We're down to 250 something listings.
Yeah, that's a fair. That's actually, I thought you would have way more, so that's not bad. I know
We were well over 400 at one point and figured, okay, that's a little too much. We tried to navigate our shop, or told friends and family to navigate our shop and find a specific listing, and it was difficult. So we're like, okay, that's too many listings. Start paring it down. Sometimes more is not better.
completely agree. Yeah, I followed the rumor. I thought about building up, getting as many listings as I could, and I think I got to 500 once, and then pared them. I went right down to below 50, and I think I'm possibly up about 80 or 90 just now. So yes, but I know we have some sellers here. Let us know, guys. How many listings do you have? I know
Yeah, how
there's
many
some
listings do you
shops
have?
with
Because there are
thousands.
some that have 10 listings, but then I believe we have some shops in here that have 4 or 5,000 listings.
Yeah,
They
and
just have better ways of organizing it than I did.
exactly. And I've seen top selling shops with one listing, five
Yep,
listings, and I've seen top selling shops with thousands of listings. So there's no right or wrong way. It's just interesting to know.
that is true. You did a video a couple years ago about a shop with 6 listings. I believe he was selling like dragon marbles or something along those lines, or
Yeah.
stones, and he had over 9,000 sales, or 6,000 at the time. He's over 9,000 now, and 6 listings. That's all it took, because he had a very specific niche.
Exactly. And a very good way of marketing as well. But yeah. So there's no amount you need, but it's always interesting. I think we're looking, most people here are in the hundreds.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Handy to see. Yep. So another thing on most of our pages, you'll see this little columns button. So this gives you a way, if you want to, if certain things are important to you, like SKUs, I don't use them probably as much as I should, so I switch that off. It doesn't help me a whole lot. So you can take out the things that aren't important to you just by clicking on them, and that'll add them or take them away. So you can make the table as manageable as possible. There's a lot in here.
You can
Which
also move those columns around, in that when you click on columns, you're able to move them around. If you want a specific oh, we can't do it on this one yet. Okay, never mind.
yeah.
That's coming soon.
Yeah, that is our, if if you've been looking on some of our tools, we have been updating eRank to our latest version. And yes, in our latest version of the tools, you can drag the columns if you need to. This is the original version of our listing audit. So we haven't got there yet, but without
Sorry.
giving any spoilers, myself and Bryan have seen what's coming with the new tool, and it's going to be really cool. But we've asked for the moon on a stick, so it's taking longer. We're in absolute pain, always going, can we get that as well? And what if it could do that?
So for right now, you can't move them around, but you can turn columns on and off, because you might not care when the expiry date is. You might not care about grabbing the link quickly, and so you can pare down those columns, that the columns that you need are shown and nothing else.
Yeah, because there's so much data here, and what's important to one person isn't important to other people. So that's the best way we had to deal with it. So anywhere that you're seeing columns, that means you can at the least turn off some of the columns. You can personalize the table to you. Export button, I won't be able to show you much here, I don't think. Yeah, you can copy all this data here, export as an Excel, PDF, CSV, or print it if you want to.
And that'll be what you have on the screen. So if you have certain columns hidden, like you've turned off certain columns, those columns will not be part of the export. If you're only showing certain listings, like Pam had typed cat, or she went to a section, only those listings that are on the page will be exported. If it's multiple pages will be exported, but only the results that are being shown on the screen, that's what's being exported.
Absolutely. Now, before I forget, Debbie will kill me. Obviously, if you want to audit your listings in your shop, you have to connect to your shop to eRank.
Yes.
So you'll see that on your dashboard. If you haven't connected, obviously I have connected, so you can see all my details here. If you don't connect up, you won't be able to see things, you won't be able to use this. So we absolutely advise, if you're wanting to use eRank to its best, you want to connect up your shop. That just means that eRank is able to speak to Etsy on your behalf and pull up this data, but it's private to you. Nobody else is seeing any more information because you've shared your shop. Only it helps you be able to see things. So hopefully that, I know some people are worried about these things. eRank tries to be as ethical as we absolutely can. We follow all the rules and we keep your data private.
Exactly. And on the free account, you're only able to see your 100 latest listings. That's 100 latest updated, sold, whatever, not necessarily when you originally listed it. So you can only see the newest 100 listings. And on the other accounts, you can see all of your listings. Cutting room floor design says, is that persistent every time you open the page? Yes. When you make a change, when you hide columns, or when you make any changes like that, every time you go to that page, it'll be the exact same as when you left it. The filters will not, the sections will not, any of that like filtering won't, but any of the columns that you set up, that will be persistent across that page until you change it.
Yeah, so this does mean that as time goes on, when you're seeing us sharing our screens, our screens might look different than you because we're going to move them about for what's most helpful for us, and you can do the same for yourself. And yes, Debbie, exactly. eRank keeps your data private.
Exactly. Thoth, I believe that's how you pronounce that. It says, not sure if the grade is so accurate. I usually look at visibility. I notice with listing changes, grade changes quickly, visibility not so much. Yes, because visibility is how your listing compares to all other listings on Etsy or within a certain category, versus the grade. It has nothing to do with listing performance. It's just how well that listing follows Etsy's best practices and guidelines. So if you have a one-word title and you're using one tag, you're probably going to have an E grade or an F grade on your listing. If you then update that title, put in 13 tags, you will then be a B or an A grade. And so the grade is very specific to the listing versus the visibility, which is how your listing is doing compared to all other listings.
Yep. So let's get into those headers. That's a good time for it. So as Bryan said, here your grade. Now, if you hover over most things, or if there's a question mark, you can click the question mark to get some tool tips. So the grade is, we're saying, this is a grade that eRank assigns to your listing based on how well we believe it's following Etsy best practices. Now, actually, I've got to speak to the team about that, because we're saying the grade doesn't reflect the number of views or sales the listing has had. That's not strictly true. As Bryan said, visibility is more about how many views, how your listing's doing. One thing we have done is the grade does take into account a little bit of recent sales, because once you've done all of your SEO, if your item's selling well, then it's doing good, leave it alone. So we did add a little boost for recent sales, because it's really, really important not to worry. If you only had one word tag, if that tag's doing great for you, maybe go and work on some other listings. But if you think of your grades as a score on a checklist for Etsy's best practices, which we'll show when we come in and audit the listing. But based on Etsy's best practices for things that could increase the visibility, but it's not a kind of guarantee, but it's having the right number of images, having the right number of tags, making sure your keywords are in your title and tags and things like that. These are important. However, they can't mark, is your listing any good? Like, you could completely have chosen keywords that are not related to what your image is about. So even if you did all the SEO perfectly, if Etsy tried to show it in search, nobody would click on it, so you wouldn't show up, so your visibility would be zero, even with good SEO in terms of the checklist. You know, SEO is more than just filling in everything correctly. So it's not telling, it's the grade's there to help you find the low-hanging fruit, to say there's some real daft things that could be improved here. It's not telling you, did you pick good keywords that people are searching for? Are people going to love your item and want to buy it? It's just that's what we're auditing, the dumb mistakes, the things, what I do all the time, spelling mistakes. You've forgotten to add some images, just those basic things. I'm going to say the listing audit's a good thing if you're a beginner, to make sure you're following best practices. Once you've built a few listings, you start to know what you need to do for best practices. So I wouldn't probably focus on the listing audit too much, except for to spot those mistakes. You know how to structure it. Now you've got to go into keyword research and stuff, which we have a webinar on that, and we have tons of videos on that.
Exactly. Designed by Natalia says, my shop is sinking down after 13 years of its start. Even though I used eRank tool for searching the best keywords, my competitors don't even bother to use the tags at all in the tag section, because tags and everything are just one part of the puzzle. They might have a good social media game. They might have they might do a lot of in-person markets using Square, so they're getting sales through that. There's lots of reasons why one listing is shown over another. It could just be that they're getting the clicks. Their photos might be better, even if they don't have a single tag. If it's a search term that's in their title, their listing's going to show up in the search results. And if their photos are more clickable, someone is more likely to click on them, then they get the click. If they get the sale, their listing actually starts moving up in rank. They could be putting thousands and thousands of dollars into advertising. You don't know that. There's lots of different variables. SEO and tags, titles, etc. is just one part of the puzzle. But there's a lot of different pieces to make a listing and to make a shop in general excel.
Exactly. It's the one part of the puzzle that we can do as the little guy that a lot of people don't figure out. So it's like an extra feather to our cap. I don't know if these are things now, but right, we're nearly 20 minutes in, so
sorry.
I have to use
vintage. Can you see an eRank if someone is using ads? You cannot.
That's one of these private data. Yeah. So I was going to say about the parts of the puzzle. So we're nearly 20 minutes in, so I have to do my mention of Jason Momoa. But Jason Momoa likes crochet. If he started crocheting and opened a shop selling crochet, he wouldn't have to do any SEO at all. Somebody would post about it somewhere and his shop would sell out, just because he's Jason Momoa. However, if I started doing crocheting, I need other ways to be found, because the same number of people don't know I exist and wouldn't want to buy something just because I made it. So we all have different skill levels. Some of us are famous, some of us are great at social media, some of us have to rely on SEO because we're not that good at all the other things. It's one more thing.
Exactly.
Right. Where were we at? Okay, so we've done the grades. Yep. So listing title, hopefully this is fairly obvious. This is the title that you have given to your listing. And then we have a load of buttons here. We'll be using the listing audit button. So that means if I click that, we would be auditing that listing. View on Etsy takes you to Etsy so you can see what your listing looks like. The one I use a lot is Edit on Etsy. If you've seen, there's some dumb mistakes in there. Click that, it takes you to the page where you're able to edit your listing. Super quick to do those changes that need changed. Now, as we've said, If your listing's selling great, leave it alone. It's become your Jason Momoa in your shop. It doesn't need to rely on having perfect SEO. It's good enough and Etsy likes it.
Exactly.
Traffic stats we'll dig into these tools in other videos, but if you've connected up your Etsy shop to Google Analytics, then we're able to dive deeper into your keywords and help you with some more data here. And the show changes and stop tracking. This is the changes tool. So what this is, if you see one of your listings here, have I got one that I'm not tracking? Here we go. If you see one of your listings and you think, oh, I could do something to improve this listing, but you want to make sure that you're scientifically doing the changes. You want to make sure that you know your changes are doing a good difference. You can click this track changes, and once a day, eRank takes a snapshot of your listing and lets you know the title, the tags, number of views, all sorts of data about it. So then you can let that run for several days, a couple of weeks, and then come back to your listing, make the changes, and then let it run again. And then you're able to go back to your track changes and see, oh, before I made the changes, my listing was doing better. I can change back because I know what my title and tags were. So it's a handy one to see. So you can see what your changes were. That just takes you to the changes page for that listing, or you can stop tracking if you want to, because this is my expert account. Some of the lower levels of subscription you can't, you can only
You can
edit.
only track so many.
Yep. So you might be done with a listing. You're happy, like this sweet guy. He's fine. So I could stop tracking him. I'm not going to mess with him for a little while. Total sales is the number of times this listing has been sold since it was originally created. So it's all-time sales. And this is your actual number of sales for that listing that comes from Etsy. So, yep. Last updated, this is a very handy one. So this is the last time the listing was modified, sold, or renewed. So if you've made changes to it and relisted that listing, or it's sold or something, that's the last time this happened. So you can look at it and go, oh yeah, I did change that, or something's happened recently, and your expiry date is when it's going to expire. So you could, if you wanted to, you can always click on any of these columns and it sorts by that metric. So we know your listing only lasts for, was it 3 months or 4 months? I always muddle
4
that
months.
up. 4 months. When you create a new listing or when you renew it and you pay that 20 cents, your listing lasts for 4 months. So you could look at listings that are more like, just about to expire, and maybe think of working on them, because if they've gone 4 months without sales, without being renewed and because of those sales, then maybe they're the ones you want to work on. So it's handy to be able to do that.
Definitely.
Okay, so the SEO tips, this is where we're getting into the cool bits of this tool. So this is what we said about in the listing audits. It's like a checklist of Etsy best practices. So this is just telling you, here are the number of tips that we've seen that might be easy things for you to fix. So like this listing has 6 tips. So I could say to myself, well, maybe if this listing wasn't performing very well, this might be a good one. This has a lot of low-hanging fruit I can go into and make changes, and hopefully that'll improve that listing. These are the nice, easy things I've got to be able to change. Age of your listing is from when you created that listing, how many days old it is. I have some very old listings here. I've had a shop since 2008. So yeah, I don't know how old that is, but there's some very old listings.
17 years.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. So the visibility, we mentioned that briefly a minute ago. So this is a measure of how your listings are doing compared to other listings on Etsy, and it's just for the total daily views. So a listing with a 55% visibility means its total daily views are better than 55%, well, 54 and a bit percent of listings on Etsy. So it's doing kind of well. And one with 29% means it's getting less daily views. Now, if you go in and make changes to your listing immediately just now, that is not going to change because your average daily views is just, it's just pretty much going to be the same, especially with a listing of this age. Even if I made a change and that boosted I was getting one more view a day, because this is for all time, it's going to take a while before that actually moves the needle, that changes the percent there. So this is one of these things, you use it to find the listings that you want to work on, but don't come back and look and see, oh, it hasn't changed. It's not going to change immediately. With a brand new listing, sorry, Brian?
I was going to say, and this stat just deals with views. If you have a listing that converts really well, every single person who views that listing buys that listing, so the conversion rate is 100%, that listing will probably have a very low visibility score because it doesn't get thousands and thousands of views a day versus other listings that do, even though this listing sells better. So this is only the visibility in Etsy search, not necessarily how well the listing does as far as sales go.
Yep. And it's not saying if these views come from search or they come from social media or where these views come from. So this is not a metric that you want to just get higher. I've heard some people say, oh, you need to get a visibility of 100%. No, you don't need any number. What I look at this for is, if you filter it, I can look and I can see what is sort of the average from my shop. So we've got some really low numbers and then some in the middle and some really high. So if I'm seeing, seeing some of these ones with like a 9% visibility or something, then if I'm seeing a lot of SEO tips with this as well, this is a listing potentially, it's had 2 sales in nearly 4,000 days. I think that's a listing I can safely touch and it's not going to hurt my shop in any way. So you found a kind of low-hanging fruit one there. So it just gives you an idea of what you can be working on.
Exactly.
And the total views, well, basically, that the reason we've given the visibility is so you can compare listings of different ages. So if I had like, this listing is 300 days old, this listing is 4,000 days old. So you can look and compare, oh, that's only got, a small number of views, but the total the average daily views is, is kind of similar because of the difference in age of listings there. Last few wee bits here. Tag counts is just the number of tags your listing has. So you've got up to 13 tags you can use in your listing. So this is just going to highlight. So again, you can filter by this metric just by clicking on here. So I can see, oops, I've got some listings with 6 tags. So if I was just wanting to come in, say I had a keyword that I really wanted to experiment with, I could have a look at this listing, make sure that it's not one that's, okay, it's an E grade, it's not got many sales, it's missing tags. Here's a good one to potentially work on. Same here, images, the number of photos you've got in your listing. Now, we're not showing it yet, but also videos are important to Etsy. And if you missed it, we spoke about this on Thursday, but we do have a new tool in beta that we'd love for you to try out, which is Create Video Beta. This is to work in conjunction with the listing audits in that it's a very, very quick video maker. It's not designed to replace your video editing software. It's just for people who really don't like making videos and you look and you say, oh, maybe I should try adding a video to this listing. So we have that.
Or if
tool.
you have 50,000 listings and that's a lot of videos you would need to take, this is just a quick way to get videos into your listings before you take the time to actually shoot proper videos.
Yep. And as you can see, this is in beta. We got loads of feedback on Thursday, which the team absolutely loved and have been working on the feedback already. But please, please give it a try and let us know what you think. As I say, it's nice and simple. It's not going to replace your video editing software, but it's a quick and dirty way to make a video, basically.
Exactly.
Quantity available. Again, this is the number of when you create a listing, you can have a different quantity than just one if you have more of that listing available. This is, if it's handy for you, it's handy to be able to look and be like, oh, this one's maybe just about to sell out, or this is a one of a kind, or just to give you, it's another bit of information that'll be useful for some shops. I do have some with more of a quantity. Yep. And again, your item price, hopefully pretty straightforward. That is the price that your item is listed for. The URL, if that's handy, it's a good way to get your listing URL if you want to share it. So you're able, like say, we can filter in here or sections, and you're about to grab the URL of a listing. So even if you're seeing one that was doing okay, but it's just not getting many views, you can copy that and use it to share in your social or anything else as well. And the final column is your tags. So those are the tags that your listing has had. So you can have a look and see what the tags are. Great. I think that's everything that's on that page. Have we got any questions?
Let's just quickly jump in here. Beza says, based on what I'm hearing, Etsy is not a straightforward platform, not stable. There's no specific rule that you can follow. Very interesting that it's one of the top platforms where most people put hopes on. It's just like any other retail, though. If you were to open a store in a mall or wherever, you still need to work on advertising. You still need to do product cost. You still need to get people in the door. You still need to carry the products that people want. You still need to take good photographs for your marketing. You still need to get classifieds out. You still need to get people in the door. You still need to work on your window display. You need to work on sales. There's so many different aspects that there is no one size fits all, especially since everybody is selling something very different. Pam sells needle felted animals that she hand needle felt. I sell 3D printed home decor. It's very different markets, very different audiences. And so there's different ways to get in there. There's also different competition. So the more competition you have with, what is there, 5.4 million sellers on Etsy and 96 million buyers, you have a lot of competition that you're dealing with. So different markets or different niches will have different levels of competition. If you're selling bracelets, you might have significantly more competition than if you were selling needle felted animals. And so the way that you market yourself, the way that you have to worry about tags and worry about everything being perfect is different. If there's more competition, you have to push a little bit harder. You have to be better than a million other shops, versus if you're a smaller seller or you're in a very, very specific niche, you might only have to be better than 10 sellers. And so there's a lot of nuances. It's not just in sales. It's also if you had a restaurant, if you are running a search engine, there's a lot of nuances. There's every business, every aspect of everything in life, essentially. There's so many variables, and you basically have to find the variables that work best for what you need to do. There's no guide. If you do A, B, C, and D, you're going to find success, because then everyone would be doing A, B, C, and D. And that's how Etsy originally was. And then they started getting smarter with personalization in searches and lots of other things that they've done to make the marketplace a better experience for buyers. And that has made it more complicated and more nuanced in how you get in front of those buyers. Yeah, I hope that kind of just sums up the world.
Absolutely. No, that's it. It's a moving target. And the thing that Bryan alluded to there, it's not just Etsy, it's absolutely everything. Everything on the internet, but everything before the internet, bricks and mortars, what encouraged people in changes. There's no one way to do it. It's like a moving science experiment. You've always got to be trying to stay ahead of the competition, understanding. I see little mentions of GPT and stuff. You've got to be understanding what new things are coming out, what new ways people are looking for things, what new trends people are into, like how people search changes all the time, what people are loving changes all the time. So yeah, it's, and the good news, right? I've always been stressed by this. I always think I've spent all this time learning this thing and it's moved. I remember I was a driving instructor and I did all my training and everything, and then I got really annoyed that it's like this stuff changes all the time. It's not fair. But with Etsy especially, or this kind of thing, it's really good because if you're here, you're interested in learning and you're making an effort, and most Etsy sellers aren't. So if we're just learning a little bit, you don't have to get it all right, but if we're just doing 5%, you're 5% better than a lot of the rest of the competition. So it's a pain, but it puts you in front of people better. It gets you a bit of a lead.
Exactly. And Beza also asked, which is more important to Etsy, 90% visibility score with 0% conversion rate or 40% visibility score with 10% conversion rate to boost a listing's rank? Conversion rate is what matters. The visibility doesn't actually matter. The visibility is just how many clicks your listing gets, how many views your listing gets. That's just, it's almost a random stat because you could be bringing people in from social media. You could bring in 1 million people because your product went viral. But if you have a 0% conversion rate, the listing is not going to move up in rank because it doesn't sell. Etsy will promote and raise in rank stuff that sells. So the more likely something is for a buyer to purchase it, the more likely it is to show up higher in ranking. So conversion is one of the more important numbers, but even a low conversion item, as long as it's selling, is all that matters. Because if you do have an item go viral and it gets 1 million views in a single day, that's huge. That doesn't help your listing much. Etsy understands who the audience is a little more, but it doesn't help the listing. But if it sells 100 in that day, that's a very, very low conversion rate. That's a 0.01% conversion rate, but it's sold 100 times. So Etsy is going to boost that listing. So the conversion doesn't really matter either as much as sales in general matter. So the more sales a listing has, especially more recent sales, will boost a listing more than just having a good conversion rate or having an immense amount of views.
Yeah, and just to clarify as well, visibility, although Etsy talks about visibility and it is something they're aware of, the visibility number on eRank is not a number as such that Etsy gives us. It's a calculation we make. It is, we have looked and seen what the average daily views, average listings get, and we know how old your list, how many days old your listing is, how many views it's got. So we're just making a calculation. Etsy's not sitting looking at that number in specific. It has its own numbers with its own nuance as well.
Exactly.
All right.
That's it for the chat at the moment.
Okay, so let's have a look in. So what I would say with, if you're looking to improve your listings, what I like to do is filter by your SEO tips to get the thing that has the most SEO tips, and then have a look at your listings. Now, we can see this first one. If I actually, it would be easier if I hide the sidebar, which if you didn't know, you can hide or remove your menu with this little chevron-y thing here, so I can see a little more on the screen. But if I have a look, the thing with the most SEO tips that's come up here is this little dog. It's got a B grade, it's got a fair number of total sales, it's got a good visibility. So you're saying, nope, I'm not going to touch that. So this is, you're looking at things in conjunction with other things. So for a quick scan, I'll have a look and I'll say, if I'm just wanting quick and dirty changes on my listing, I'll have a look. Okay, I've filtered by the SEO tips. I want to look for something that's got a visibility lower than is usual here. So it would possibly be this listing. I'd come back and have a look. It's got a reasonably low grade. It's got low sales. So, yep, that looks like something I could work on. So you can click to audit that listing. So it's looking at a conjunction of everything. You do not need to get all your listings to an A grade. If something is a lower grade, but it's doing well. Now, if, as I say, the grade will be bumped up a bit if you're getting some sales on it just now, but even so, if it's a fairly low grade, but maybe it's a listing that does well at Christmas or something, leave it till after Christmas before you decide you're going to work on it, but so look at all the things, look at the visibility, look at the number of tips, that's your low hanging fruit, look at what sales it's making and say, yep, I'm not touching that one, but I might work on some of these. And you just click the listing audit button. So I've got a couple
Exactly.
of
A good one there, just to point out, go back to your previous screen. It's actually that listing. So that was a low hanging fruit where you had 7 SEO tips. But if you scroll over, it also has a D grade. It looked like you were missing a tag. I don't remember what number that said. That
it's
says
11.
11. So you're missing 2
Yeah.
tags. You have 5 photos, so you have room to improve there. They're like so high SEO tips and low tags is a good place to start, because even if it had a really good grade, even if that listing was selling, you still have 2 tags to work with that will not impact the listing at all. You're just adding to it. So you're not removing anything from the listing or changing anything that can add detriment to the listing. So if you have a listing that has all the SEO tips and it's missing tags, that is the first one you should start with, because you can just add tags in and you haven't actually made a negative impact on the listing whatsoever.
Exactly. And this one's an interesting case as well, because I was saying, look at the visibility. It's got a high visibility. It's getting a load of views and it's not getting sales. Okay, so there's something wrong with this listing. So you're looking at in conjunction with everything. If I'm getting, not that the conversion rate, as Bryan said, there could be many reasons for a conversion rate being lower than you expect, but if something's really getting good views and it's not getting sales, I've done something wrong here. So I really need to have a look at this a little bit.
Definitely.
So when you click on that, you get to see the listing that you've chosen. Now, there's a couple of cool things here. Now, firstly, if you didn't know, you can also do it from your dashboard. You can also snoop on other people's listing here. If you add their listing ID and search, it'll show you. It won't show you as many metrics because we don't have, like, the traffic stats here is telling me private data. It's telling me how many views I'm getting from organic search, or you can see I've got my ads on and stuff. Now I can only see that because that's my data. I couldn't see it if I looked up Bryan's listing or something. So, and here is, we talked about quotas for different plan levels. So I'm in the expert plan, so I can look up 500 listings. If you're running, if you're doing more than 500 listing audits in a day, you just take a break. That's an awful lot. It's best really to do less, and as we said, start tracking them and track how your changes have done. So you want to do a little chunk of listings, have a good reason for why you're making the changes, and then come back and do some more. So don't worry, even if you're on one of the lower plans and you don't have as many quotas, you shouldn't be running up a high number of listing audits. I think, yeah, maybe sometimes, or if you're new and you just want to check everything out, fair enough. But on the regular basis, if anyone's doing 500 audits a day, every day, slow down. That's a lot. So one thing I really love here, I'm just sticking to the end. If you have decided you're going to make some changes, this little notes column is a great place to remind yourself what you did, why you did it, the date you did it. I've got some that remind me to take a nap or hydrate myself or stuff, but just, you can add a fun note to make yourself smile, or you can remind yourself why you did a thing. So that's always handy. I love that. So you just click on it and type in what you want to remember. That's going to confuse me much later on. I'll be like, why have I got a note there? But add yourself a note to yourself to say, why did I do that thing? Especially if you've got hundreds of listings, you're never going to remember what changes you made.
Exactly. I like to write what changes I make. I like to have a date saying when I made the change, and I leave myself a note saying, like, do not change before such and such a date, or do not change until after Christmas, and that kind of thing, just to remind myself, because I will not remember.
Exactly. That's it. It's there because
Also,
we all
a good reason that I use it as well is if I have 13 tags on a listing and there's other tags I want to try, but I don't want to mess up the listing yet because the listing's either doing well or just I'm testing something else on the listing. I put the tags that I want to add to that listing in there. You can also use a quick list, but putting it actually directly on the listing, I find, is very helpful so that you remember specifically, I want those tags on this listing at this time.
Exactly. It's so handy to have. So here we just get a little overview of your listing. So again, the grade, you can see what the grade is. Now, if you make changes to this listing and you come back to it, you've got this little refresh data button. This just forces eRank to go into Etsy and pick up your new data. So if you've made changes and you think this now shouldn't be a D, click the refresh listings and it will go in, pick up the data, reanalyze it, and tell you if you've done a good job there.
Exactly.
And again, we have you can see on the Etsy, and another tool that we've got that's very cool is our keyword lists, which means you can save all the keywords you found. So if you hit that, you can save all the tags that you've got in this listing. Handy for you, even more handy if you're snooping someone else's listing and you think, hey, I want to save their keywords. I want to save these tags to understand them later. Now, we never recommend just copying someone's listing, especially, you know, if they're a superstar, if they're the Jason Momoa of your niche, you could copy everything they've done and you will not get the same success as them. But it might be you see some really good tags in there and you want to analyze them and see if there's similar but different keywords, if people are searching for slightly different things, just to be inspired by some of their other tags. So you can create a keyword list. Here we have some metrics about your listing. So that's the total number of sales, the conversion rate, that is just the percentage of your views that converted to sales. So if you have had 100 views and 1 sale, that's a 1% conversion. I always give myself easy maths there. The average daily views that your listings had since that item was created. So that is basically just the number of views divided by the age, the number of days. And the views, the total number of views, the total number of favorites that listing has, how many you've got available, and the visibility that we already spoke about. Traffic stats are if you've connected up your Google Analytics to Etsy, that can give you some ideas of where your visits are coming from. If you're like, my ads are driving more traffic than organic search, I really need to work on that a little bit. And you can click on that to get more details in our traffic stats tool. And we can even, now this is an interesting one. People have been talking about how to prove how old your listing is if people are copying you. You know, I think a few people were saying their listings have been copied on other platforms. Here you can find out the date your listing was created, so you have some kind of proof to be able to go to places and go, look, this is when I made this listing. So that's handy to have.
Which I use all the time. My items get stolen a lot by Temu, AliExpress, and Shein shops, and this just makes it easy for the IP reporting. You just take a screenshot of this entire thing. In the address bar, you have the listing ID, you have your full title, you have your image, and you have the date the listing was created. And they tend to take that seriously. And will use that alone to actually remove offending listings.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so your superstar keyword. Now, this is a thing that you're adding to eRank. This has no connection to Etsy. You know, you're not going to change your listing by adding anything here, but you can add your superstar keyword. So think of that keyword that you were building your listing around. You wanted to know if you'd done good SEO towards that keyword. So let's say I thought needle felted dog was the most important keyword in this listing. If you add this here, then it means that eRank is going to be able to look at this and help you out with some more details. Here we go. So we get to see now, have I done good SEO for this term? It's not telling me, is this a good term? Just have I done good by it? Is it in my title? It is, and it's all together. Is it in my tags? It is, but I didn't have it all. What have I got? I don't actually have the word felted in my tags. I have felt, so, and I don't have it all together. So maybe I could look at changing a tag there to focus on it better. Do I mention it in my description? I do. Now, Etsy doesn't use your description a whole lot, but it's still good best practice. If your most important keyword, the thing that people are searching for, is that phrase, if your description clearly says that your listing is what they were searching for, it's good practice. It lets them know, yep, I got the right thing. Okay, so here's our tips section. We said the number of tips that eRank spotted you for, so you can come here to see what your problems are. We've got a link to take you to see Etsy's best practices, to see what we're basing a lot of this on. And where you have a status that's an exclamation mark, it means it's important, but it's not. If you look at it and it's not relevant for your listing, then ignore it. But if it's handy, like make sure you put your most important keyword near the start of your title. Okay, so maybe I could, change around my title. Is it the best title? But if I'm happy with how it is, an exclamation point means it's not the most important one. These crosses are more important. I have 2 unused tags. Now, is it going to help my listing rank better for the tags that are already there if I add new tags? No, but it gives me more fishing rods in the pond, basically. It gives me more chances of being seen for more keywords. So I can add a couple of extra tags. That would be an important thing. And the same with single word tags. We've spoke about this a lot. Etsy doesn't recommend you use single word tags just because it's a waste of space. You could get another word in there and you're just as optimized for that single word if your tag has 2 words in it. And so here you just look at, so again, all 10 photo slots, it's an exclamation mark. It can help you. It's not going to necessarily boost your ranking, but if you have 10 great photos that explain your listing, customers can fall in love with your listing and they might be more likely to convert to buyers. So it could be.
And once again, it doesn't analyze the photos themselves. If you were to put 10 of the same photo, that wouldn't help your listing at all. It would satisfy this, that you have 10 photos, but we haven't analyzed to say, hey, you're using 10 of the exact same photo. That doesn't help your listing whatsoever. That can harm your listing. That's why it's an exclamation point, because it's something to look at, but not necessarily a detrimental situation.
Exactly. That's it. And don't try and game things to get an A here. Look at what's important and could help you if it's relevant to you. Because having 10 photos that are identical does not help in any way. So don't try and game these things. So here we see a little bit the title analysis. So what's highlighted here is the visible portion of your title. I think it's in different places you'll see more or less of your title, but this is sort of an average on a browser of what you're going to see. So it can be handy to look and see, is your most important descriptive keyword showing up? It's not been cut off when people are seeing things in search. So just have a look at that. Lets you know the number of words.
When people are actually looking at the listing, they will see your entire title. But in search results, in your shop page, on anywhere else on Etsy, the related searches, etc., they will only see a truncated version. And the highlighted part is the largest part that they will see. So that's usually on a computer in a browser window. On mobile, that cuts down to about about half of that. It ends up being about 23 characters. So you want your most important words to be within the first 23 characters, because that's what customers will actually be seeing. That's what shoppers are seeing when they're in search or when they go to your shop before they click on your listing to see the entire title. And that's why keyword stuffing your title doesn't necessarily help, because people don't see that. And titles are for people. They're what people actually see.
Exactly. It's your most important thing. And keyword stuffing can actually put people off. I mean, if you're selling like cheap pins or something, probably won't make much of a difference. If you're selling a wedding dress and you use a Temu type title, it might put people off as to the quality of your item. So have a think about what needs to be in your title.
Clear and concise is what Etsy recommends.
Exactly. They don't explain how concise is concise, but they do recommend it. Word count and character count, that's just for your information. It doesn't really make much difference to anything. So yeah, you don't have to worry about everything unless it's relevant for you. And then we have little suggestions and a link to our AI title helper. We do have a tool. No, it's not a link. It opens here. So we get some ideas of different things you could try. This is AI, so user beware. Always check that it works for you, but it might give you some ideas of things to check out. So yeah, it's for me, this is a custom item, but they mention like one of a kind and personalized. That could be handy for me. Here we have our tag analysis, so you can see all your tags and just quickly go through these. So the tag is what is written in your tags in Etsy. The search trend is how the search volume number, people that are searching for this tag, for this keyword over time. So we can see it's the past 15 months. So you can see how popular it's been, which is not madly popular just now. I've not picked one with great keywords, but still good. Average searches, again, this is the average over the 12 months. So it's handy to see both of these. You can see sort of the top, the average value, but you can see if it's seasonal, like personalized gift was kicking off in June. Etsy must have been promoting something there. That's usually a Christmas type term, but so you can see when it's peaking, if it's seasonal, if it's tailing off. Really handy to see there. Average clicks are from these, say, 1,200 people times that it was searched, 882 times people who searched clicked on something they saw on the search page. The average CTR is the click-through rate. So this is the calculation of these things. So 69% is telling us that of these 1,206 people that searched, 69% of the time they were clicking on something. So the click-through rate, the higher the click-through rate, the more potential purchase intent. People don't just search and go, I don't like anything there. They were searching and looking at listings. A handy one in custom ornament, it's 108%. How can it be more than 100%? This can mean that of the people that searched, they maybe clicked on more than one listing. So they were really in investigating mode. They were having a look. I looked at this one listing. I looked at another listing. And so these numbers are handy to see. Competition is the number of listings in the US in this case, because we're looking at the US, the number of listings in the US that you would be competing against in search for that keyword. And then we get these little check boxes. Basically, is this a multi-word tag? So if you've got a cross, I just have a single word there. I could very much add another word to that keyword to give myself a chance of being found for more search terms. You can see if you spelt something wrong, if this is included in the start of your title. You can't have everything at the start of your title, but it's good to have a few clicks, a few checks here and a few checks there. Yeah, and we can see these things that you can put into your listings.
And just to kind of go back to that part, green is of course better, but it doesn't. There is no exact formula of you need to have green across the board. You need to have only listings with high search volume and low Etsy competition. Those are generally better terms. You will not fill up with those. You will not fill up with those in terms that are relevant to your listing. Relevance is the most important thing, and then jump into this data. Having a high search volume is great, but also having a low search volume doesn't necessarily mean that the listing is a bad listing or that that's a bad tag. Especially since Etsy will mix and match between tags. So they will take one word from this tag and one word from this tag and put them together. And so sometimes you just want words in there. So the tag as it stands might have a low search volume or high competition, but the mixing and matching of the words within your tags, and that's why it's important to have multi-word tags, that mixing and matching might end up being a much better tag than what you would have created. And so just looking at those stats to determine if a tag is good or not is not as important as making sure that tag is relevant. If there is a lot of competition, that's fine, because you will eventually raise up in the ranks and you will be towards the top of that competition. So it's better to be at it. So if there's a million different listings with that tag, if you're at the top of that, that's a good thing. If you're at the very bottom, that sucks for now, but you're going to work your way up as you make more sales, as you get more visibility, as your shop grows. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. That red doesn't mean bad. It just means, hey, this is a caution thing. If you have a better or more relevant term, you might want to use that, but it's not necessarily a stop. Do not use that.
Yeah, and if you're aiming your tags, a lot of people have very good success, Brian being one of them, with a lot of mix and match tags. So if your tags don't make sense as keywords, this could be a really good place for you to use your keyword lists to make a note of what the actual keywords you are aiming for within your listing, or you can even in your traffic stats see what you're being found for. And then you'll get data like this to be able to see the search trend over time and everything for the actual keywords that you were using. So yes, your tags don't always necessarily have to make sense. And again, a lot of people like to use their shop name as one of their tags, which is not a bad, you don't have to, but it helps some people. And if you did that, if your shop name is too long for you to be able to add any other words, that might be a one-word tag. But it's not a bad thing. If you've filled up all the space with that word, that's all you can do. So again, you're not looking to get everything perfect. If you understand why you've done what you've done, the listing audit is there to hopefully make you check and think about why you've done a thing. But if it's irrelevant, or if it's a spelling mistake, but it's not really a spelling mistake, it's just something we don't have in our dictionary yet, you can add that to a safe list or just ignore it, but you don't have to get everything perfect if you've thought about why you've done the thing that you've done.
Exactly.
Right. So the rest of these, your attributes and categories and everything, these, pick the most sensible that works for your listing. We'll let you know here if you've forgotten to add any. Obviously, different items can fit in different categories, and then they have different options for attributes depending on which category they're in the first place. Your materials, just do your best with them just now. In some sections, I'm seeing in jewelry, Etsy is using some of your materials to show up if it's like a gold ring or something. Or no, that's probably your attributes. But your materials aren't really keywords or anything. So add what's relevant for the customer. The main reason
It's to help the shopper make an informed decision. So if there's something they're allergic to, they know what's in it. Or if they want something that's vegan friendly, they know exactly what's in it. That's more what materials are used for.
Exactly. So we just let you know that it's there, but it's not for SEO, but it's handy to have. Again, here's your description. We're highlighting, if you've put your superstar keyword in or any of your tags, we're just highlighting where things are showing up. So you know what you've done with your SEO wise. Are you showing up the most important tags? Yep. So that's good. And again, you don't want to just copy and paste your title. I probably did there. This is a very old listing. It's not best practice. You want to, instead of trying keyword stuff your description, you want to make it make sense for a buyer. You want to answer your questions, answer what questions people could have and things. I really need to work on that. That's a terrible example. Again, here you're seeing your images, so you can see how many you've got missing, figure out to add them, your processing time, your policies. So remember, well, no, we can't not have return policies on listings now, but it just lets you know what that is if you haven't updated it. And your sales history, that tells you the last times it's sold, and also is showing you the title that you had, so you can see between my last two sales I'd added an extra to the title, so it's a handy wee thing to see there. And
you can see the price that it's sold at as well. So if you have a listing with multiple variations with different pricing, you can see which variation sold based on the price.
Absolutely. And there's a little preview of what your listing is going to look like in some places. Handy to see what things get truncated, what the Google preview looks like, and just give you an idea. Could you make it look a wee bit better? Yeah, I think we covered everything that was in the tool, kind of. Guys, if you have any questions about this tool, if this kind of level was helpful, I know we had a few people ask us, and like I said, we wanted to just cover hopefully from the basics, and hopefully even those of you that have used the tool before, it helps just go, oh, I didn't realize that. I've never used that or haven't used it in that way. Just hopefully it opens your eyes to new things with it. But let us know, was that level too high, too low? Did we miss anything? And what tools would you like us to do next as well? Yeah. All right. Have I missed any chat?
Nope. That's all the relevant. We could briefly touch on this. Lynn Schwartz and I believe a couple other people asked very similar questions. I had to leave for a few minutes, so I don't know if this was asked. I can't seem to get traction. What do I need to do? And someone else asked earlier, I think it was Thoth, about how to gain traction on social media and that type of thing. And a lot of it is just doing it. To gain traction on social media, you have to post. If all your posts are buy my stuff, come to my Etsy shop, you're not going to gain much traction. But if you offer something that people want to see, if you offer memes about your particular niche, or you're giving some other pieces of information, if you sell jewelry that has certain gemstones, if you give information about those gemstones, or make reels about like why you use this gemstone and what this gemstone could mean, where it's found, and all of the other information, other stuff that is relevant to your products that aren't necessarily go buy my products. It's just saying, it's just giving information about your products, information about your niche. You kind of build your following that way. And then when you make a post saying, hey, by the way, check out my Etsy shop, you already have the audience that's interested in your product. Instead of just trying to advertise to everyone in the world, you have a very specific audience that is already invested in the information that you're giving, and you've already kind of become the known person for that topic. Building an audience, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. It's the same as building a YouTube channel. It's the same as building reviews if you have a physical shop or even an Etsy shop. Everything takes time, and it just takes persistence. It can feel very daunting at first if you're making posts every day or every few days, and you're only getting 1 or 2 new followers a day or 1 or 2 new followers a week. It can feel like it's moving slow, and that is generally pretty slow, but it's the persistence, and slowly that curve rises. It's just like sales, where once you open your shop, you're at nothing, so Etsy doesn't know who you are. Once you start making sales, they start showing you more, and then all of a sudden you start making more sales. It's the same with followers on social media. It's the same with a following everywhere, where it slowly has to build. And there's nothing, there's no book on how to build followers. You can buy followers. You can do lots of other shady stuff that actually ends up hurting you instead of helping you. Exactly. And so it's about building an audience. It's almost like finding friends. We're all out of high school and everything. How do you find friends? It's a very slow process. It's a matter of getting out there and just showing who you are and what your shop is about, and the people will come. It takes time. Everything takes time.
Yeah. Right, I've got some good news that I'll go over in a minute. But the key, the trick thing, it's in the name. It's social media. It's not marketing. It's social media. So you want to build up a social community, and any of the platforms. Look at what you enjoy interacting with. Look at what's working with your competitors, and it rarely is post your thing and run. Just use a scheduler, post it, and don't even bother with it. But I've got good news. eRank is going to be a summer of social media, kind of. A week on Thursday, we're going to have the lovely Michelle joining us in the live to talk about Pinterest. That's been her expertise she's been working on. And 2 weeks in 2 weeks' time, Starla will be talking about Instagram. And last week we said it would be this Thursday, but for those of you that made it to the end, we've got a secret thing that Anthony will be coming on Thursday to talk about some interesting changes to eRank. So it's well worth being around, coming back on Thursday for Anthony to show that. So, but yes, summer of social media will start from a week on next Thursday, and we have some experts in the Starla's Instagram game is fantastic, and Michelle has been working hard learning everything about Pinterest. So I'm looking forward to them.
Me too. Instagram is where my shops excel. Pinterest, I don't know. I don't know. So I will definitely be tuning in as well.
Yeah. Oh, Pinterest is so annoying for me because I used to get like my stuff's fairly visual, so it did really well on Pinterest from other people pinning it, but I never managed to capture that lightning in a bottle for myself. So I really, really need some help. I know Pinterest could be good for me. So Michelle, hope you're listening. Help a girl out.
Swagata says, do these live sessions alternate between Tuesdays and Thursdays? No. Every single Thursday you will find an eRank live. It'll be Pam, Starla, myself mixed in there, as well as special guests from time to time. Once a month, we like to do do these deep dives into a specific tool, to give a little webinar about how eRank works, and that'll usually be on a Tuesday. Usually the middle Tuesday of the month. But it's every Thursday that you will find an eRank live at 3 p.m. Eastern. What is it, 8 p.m. your time?
Yeah.
8 p.m. EST?
British summertime, yes.
There you go. And so don't forget to join us for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll get notifications when we do run the weekly live on Thursdays and these webinars, which are about once a month.
Yeah, and let us know what you want more in a tool, let us like we're just starting with these kind of webinars, so let us know the direction you want them to go, what you need to know, but
and how in depth you want them to go and that kind of thing. You could let us know in the Facebook group, which you can find at facebook.com/EtsyRank. It's all in the description below. You can find us on Threads, Reddit, and everywhere else that people are social. We'll be there to answer your questions and ask us questions and let us know what you want to see in these webinars, what level you're at, and how detailed you want this information to get.
Yeah, so guys, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you Thursday.
Bye.
It wasn't easy, no, but with eRank, we're trending now. I dreamed of topping all the charts. I wanted sales to blow up. Remember long nights crafting, no one clicking on my stuff, but I signed up.